If the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get back to another Super Bowl, they have to get more explosive and more dynamic on defense. We're going to take care of that today as we go through our milk. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome to Mock Draft Monday here on Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and free on all the platforms, whether it's audio podcasts or here on YouTube. Like, sub, and hit the bell if you're there. Don't forget, this is going to be a fun one. We're here, and we appreciate you making us your first listen. It's fun to be that early in the morning kind of first vibe on football, but make another one and check out the Locked On Network, all of it, but Locked On NFL Draft. Certainly, I would appreciate that. There's a lot going on. I'm Ryan Tracy. If you don't know me, I am not only the host here, but also of Locked On NFL Draft. I also run Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, where we do metrics work on prospects and evaluation and looking at production and athleticism as it applies to not only the draft, but free agency as well. And then I also run RGR Football. So welcome and thanks for being here with me today. We're brought to you today by BetOnline. They have everything that you need, have you covered with all the props, news, podcasts, lines, everything that you could want to bet on. Go check out BetOnline where the game begins. We begin today by taking a shot at what they have to do. We saw the departure of Anthony Hitchens last week. I'm recording this here knowing that number one job of this team is to get more dynamic on defense, more explosive, not just in the pass rush, but also at the defensive back level. So we have a lot to get done. We're going to go through a full mock here. We might even take some trades. I'm looking pretty forward to it. So I think what we'll do is get started. And if you are able to go watch on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to go through this with me as we process it. We'll be here on screen here shortly. I think that what we want to make sure that we do is get value that applies on the field in 2022. So I'm going to kick this draft off and let it get started. It's going to tear through a number of selections for other teams. Now, the Chiefs always are picking the bottom of the draft order under Andy Reid. And here comes the first opportunity to change that. It is from Cleveland, and they're offering their first pick, number 13, in exchange for both the Chiefs' first-round pick, number 30, as well as their second-round pick and an additional fourth. Now, that's just too rich for my blood. There's no way that I could see the Chiefs doing this because they would have to fall in love with a prospect to get that done. So I'm going to decline that one. But I'll bet you we'll get more offers as we go through this process because there are some teams that are going to want to move around. And here's another one, the Dallas Cowboys, who also want to get out of 24, so moving up 6 spots, in which they would expect us to give up an additional pick, 102. I'm not giving up an additional top 100 pick, I'll tell you that. But we can always entertain moving it around and offering something a little bit different. I'm not against that in any way, shape, or form. But we have to see who's on the board. And so for what the Chiefs want to get done, looks like a number of edges have gone off. Quite a number, actually. Hutchinson at 2, Kayvon Thibodeau at 7. Come back with Jermaine Johnson up the ranks at 14, Trayvon Walker at 19. And then just before the Cowboys were to pick, Karlaftis goes off the board as well. So what does that leave for Kansas City? A couple of decent fits that I think they can get at 30 in Cameron Thomas, who you saw me take last week, as well as Logan Hall. I actually consider him a defensive tackle rather than an edge. There are some other players that I think are going to inch their way into this, including Boy Mafe, who I'm not seeing here listed as highly. Looks like he's listed as a third rounder on this particular machine. So that said, edge, that's fine. There are 2 corners that are interesting. Roger McCreary is an undersized guy. I don't know that he would fit. Trent McDuffie is very, very good zone corner. He's played in the same system as Marcus Peters. Do the Chiefs want to go for that? This trade would probably be worth it if they were really in love with that player, or say Nakobe Dean, which I know a lot of you guys want. And with the departure of Anthony Hitchens and the expected departure, well, Neiman has departed, so is Dorian O'Daniel, and the unlikelihood of their return. That could be a way that they go. With Dean on the board here, as well as Devin Lloyd, it's just a bit of a toss-up. There's 6 picks from where we are right now to where the Cowboys are picking. I have to say, I am not going to go for that draft because I think the Chiefs are going to get something at 30 that can work for them. And so what did we see in that process? A number of players went off the board. Now we have a ton of offers. We're on the clock at 30, and we're going to make a selection here. The Washington football team is offering a 4th in order to move up or have the Chiefs move down to 30. I think that's not a whole lot of compensation. We could work with that. Bengals are offering a 7th to go up 1. That's not something I'm interested in strengthening the Bengals either. And the Dolphins are offering a 2nd-round pick. Not something that we want to look at, but we could counter. And so for Washington, we would have to have, moving back 12 spots, we'd probably have to have their 3rd as well. But we'll give you an extra 7th. How's that? They might be interested in that particular trade. We'll see here in a minute because we got to take a look at the board and where it stands. Now, since we're there and we could have gone to 24, the Cowboys did go Brisker, the safety from Penn State, and both Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean did go off the board. So maybe next week, if we're thinking linebacker might be the higher priority or they might have fallen in love, maybe we'll take a look at that. But what that leaves us now is the same 2 players that really stood out. The edge, Cameron Thomas, that stood out last week, and we did end up selecting him. And then also the corner McDuffie. With the departure of Ward, and I don't know that they're going to be able to bring him back. If he finds a soft market for himself, he may be able to do that. But I think McDuffie is a guy that will let them be multiple. Just because he hasn't played a ton of man coverage in college doesn't mean he can't. And I think we've seen the same kind of thing from Marcus Peters, from Byron, from really every Jimmy Lake corner that's come out of Washington in years recent. Byron Murphy, that is. So I'm confident that, and I think he's got some playmaking ability. I like his game. Because we didn't go corner last time, we're going to do that. We're going to scratch that off the top and give them someone that can play along with L'Jarius Sneed or Rashad Fenton. There'll be I think, a free agent acquisition as well. But we'll let this tick down because I am going to have to tell you about our favorites over at Built Bar. These are the things that you got to get, whether it's a New Year's resolution, you just want to get fitter, or you want something that is healthier for you. These Built Bars are the way to go. And if you haven't tried the Puffs, they're the best tasting ones yet. They are all kinds of flavors covered in real chocolate. They're everything that you can want as a meal replacement or something that you can have on the go to supplement your calorie intake. They are low calorie, usually 130 to 150. They're high fiber. They are low in sugar, low in carbs, and really high in net protein. This one, I think, is 17 grams. There's a lot to like here. And everything that you get is a constant evolution of flavor. They're always coming out with something new, and it makes things easy in terms of trying something new. Right now, it's a white chocolate cookies and cream is the one that I'm waiting on delivery of. All you have to do to get in the action is go over to Built.com and use our code LOCKED15 for 15% off of your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Now, as we come back in, we find that at 46, the Vikings are trying to trade back with us as well. They're offering 46 in exchange for our 62nd, 94th, and a 6th round pick. They're going to give us a 5th in addition. That is not good value for the Kansas City Chiefs, so we're just going to decline that flat out because they are not dealing in reality in that particular scenario. And what we're seeing is wide receivers coming off the board a little higher than I thought, but as the Bucs come on to the clock at 60, they want out. And all we have to do to move up 2 is give them a 7th. But I'm not really interested in giving up a pick just to move up 2 spots. Not what I'm looking for. So let's check the board. What could we lose out on here? There are a number of players that could fit what the Chiefs are looking for in terms of the secondary. Jalen Petrie off the top is one of my favorite safeties on this board. You have Arnold Ebiketie, the edge out there from Penn State. Myjai Sanders is out there. George Pickens at the wide receiver spot. Drake Jackson is a young edge it's kind of still on the raw side, but he could definitely help. We have Nick Benito still out there, who's really more of a 3-4 OLB. He could play off the ball a little bit. He could spy really well as the actual linebacker in Chad Muma. We're going to see what happens there. So I'm more interested in acquiring picks than giving them up. So we're going to pass on that trade offer from the Bucks. We're going to let them make their selections. Now the Vikings want to come back up from their third round spot. I don't see us moving all the way back to 77, and they don't have much else to offer, so that's likely not going to happen as well. So the Bucks ended up going Petrie, and Ebiketie came off the board next. So what you have here is probably the top-rated tight end in Trey McBride. I think it's a little early for that, so I don't see that happening. We already went and did what we thought we were going to do, got a corner, so I don't think we're going to look at any more corner specific, although Emerson's a guy that you could make a case for, Darian Kendrick as well. What we want to look at is the wide receivers and the edges, because there should be value here. And Myjai Sanders, Drake Jackson, like I said, boy, Mafe is still here. He might be here by the time the Chiefs pick again. Sam Williams is really intriguing that I haven't had enough time to do film on yet. But there are also some more 3-4 outside backer types down the line. Drake Jackson, Myjai Sanders are the two that stand out to me right now that are really built to be in a four-man front, and I think can do that. And Myjai Sanders, even though despite being kind of on the slender side, was able to play inside at tackle at Cincinnati as well. So there's some good options. And the wide receiver spot, it is Calvin Austin, who's I feel undersized for this offense, especially given that you have Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman on the board on this roster already. George Pickens, I think, is still a risk with a second-round pick. So I would probably hold off and think that we can get some value later. So that really makes the decision pretty straightforward when you take a look at it. It should be an edge rusher. And I'm going to go Myjai Sanders, who can do a little bit of everything, can come inside, can play in that NASCAR package, can drop if he has to, and is pretty quick. Again, needs some refinement. He's not a plug-and-play instant starter, but he should be very close. So I'm going to put Myjai Sanders from Cincinnati onto the Chiefs roster in the second round. We're going to speed this up as we get through the top 100 no matter what, and then we will just try to make some blanket selections for the Kansas City Chiefs. Another trade offer, moving up and giving up a seventh. I am okay with that. If there's someone on the board that we want to go get yet again. And let's see. Boy Mafe just came off the board. I can see the Chiefs double dipping at the edge position, I have to say. And now everybody's going to be happy because George Pickens has fallen. And at 83, he is on the board. If you want a home run hitter, he could be the guy to do it. Now, there's an injury risk. There definitely is. But a lot of folks like him. So I'm going to go back and try to trade and make that trade actually happen. So what the Eagles are offering is 83 for the Chiefs, 94, and a pair of sevenths. Not really what I'm looking to do, but we'll see if we can get anything out of them. If we pair those together, maybe we can get a sixth out of it. Doesn't look like it. So they're looking for picks as much as they can. Are we going to give up 2 sevenths to move up 10 spots? I think that's decent, especially in this point where I think everybody is going to be excited if we can select for the Kansas City Chiefs a player like Pickens. So now that it's been accepted, as we're on the clock, we are going to make that selection, George Pickens, wide receiver, Georgia, to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now you have some dynamic playmaking ability on the outside that you can put into that room with, I don't know, they must have overlapped McCole Hardman, maybe just by a year. We'll have to check if George Pickens has played with McCole. I wouldn't necessarily bet against it, but if I was going to bet, I would go to betonline.net now to check that out. And football might be over. Basketball is swinging into high gear here with March Madness coming down the line. But you can also bet on all kinds of sports, from hockey and boxing to UFC and all kinds of things right now. All the latest odds, player props, and performance is there for you to check out. It's really, really easy. It's the number one spot for all your betting needs. And it remains the spot to get scores, podcasts, and the news that you need to make informed decisions if you want to lay some money down. Head over to the website and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action, and check that all out over at BetOnline, where the game starts. And we are back with another trade offer. The Bills want to get out of 89, and they want 3 picks to do it. Again, not going to help what is going to be, I think, a stalwart team as an opponent in the AFC playoffs. So we're going to let them just kind of ride it out. And the Chiefs are going to come down to 102. So now we've picked at 30, 62, 83, and now we're on the clock at 102. I think that's pretty good spacing here. A lot of folks are going to be enticed by another Georgia player in James Cook, who has that home run ability. But again, a top 100 pick, and yes, I know it's 102, but it is for all intents and purposes a top 100 pick. I'm not investing that in a running back with Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the roster. I think you can get better value late, and I think you can do the things that you need to do around other positions. The Chiefs still need some linebacker help. We're going to see who's left. It doesn't look like Muma lasted this long, who's been a guy that you've seen me project into the Chiefs linebacker core pretty easily. Now, he is a true coverage linebacker. Troy Anderson is another one. He was down at the Senior Bowl as well. I don't know that this is value for Troy Anderson, to be quite frank, though. I'm not sure that a top 100 pick is what I would spend on him. There are other ways around that. We've dealt with edge, corner, and wide receiver to this point. So is there a safety that we like? Is there a potential developmental swing tackle that the Chiefs might like? That's really the questions that come into play. There are a couple of linebackers here, but JoJo Domann, I think, is a tweener. And I know a lot of Chiefs fans really want him. He is obviously a local kid playing in Nebraska. I'm just not sure if he can hold up. But what they could take a chance on is see if they can squeeze him into the strong safety role rather than a true linebacker role. I'm not sure if that's the way that they would want to go, but this seems right about value for him. Channing Tindall is a great player. I love his upside, but he is more of a downhill, aggressive, can play to the flat, but not exactly known for coverage. I don't think he had a single PBU in college because he wasn't asked to do that. And I haven't seen enough on film to make me think that he can be a coverage primary guy. So it does come down to whether you want JoJo Domann, do you want Troy Anderson, who I think is probably a more easy plug-in as a linebacker spot. His size, I think in particular, is what brings me to that point. And you can see 6'4" and in the 230s, at least estimated. That is not a final as we sit here, but it gives you an inkling. Whereas JoJo, I think, is 6'1". Yeah, 6'1", 230. So the length there is a concern in coverage, I think. It's going to be a toss-up. I like both those guys here. The safety group, Damari Mathis is in here. Looks like Sterling Weatherford's in here. Nick Cross from Maryland. I think that's a little low for him, but he's certainly be an option here. I'm not seeing a ton of tight end that I'm really excited about. Jake Ferguson is here, and you've seen me select him before, so I'm not going to do that today. So what we're going to do is go for what I think the best value is here. I don't mind a small school guy, but I know that the comfort of a guy that can play multiple roles is probably there. I want to stick with the true linebacker because I think that's what they need. Third linebacker in the base and a guy that can play coverage in the nickel. I'm going to go Troy Anderson. Maybe we'll come back and see how long JoJo lasts. And if he's still there later, we can take him. No, he just went off the board as we watch this tick down. In another scenario, maybe next week's mock draft, we'll go through that and see if we can arrange that. It might be a very similar scenario where he's available at the same time. Now, we come back on the clock at 1:33, and this is a different situation. Now, we are into day 3 in the 4th round, and now things, I think, start to loosen up, and it's about who can fit, who can make a difference on your roster. And I know a lot of folks are going to see Tyler Beatty from Missouri there and want to grab that because of the familiarity, because he's got some great upside. I would say the better prospect is probably Brian Robinson, who's available as well. But again, don't think that they go running back in this draft. I think they have bigger fish to fry. There are a couple of safeties available, guys that can play in Weatherford and Cross here at the safety spot. Lucetta is a smaller, but I think still pretty good arm size. I'm waiting to see that. 6'3", 250. So a little bit smaller than Frank Clark, but about the same weight. And I think I really want to see his arm length before I would commit to him, but he's a guy that showed some spark down in Mobile. And I think that goes a long way when you're going into that competition. Tyson Anderson, the safety, is available here from Toledo as well. Looks like they have some depth that they could go at offensive tackle. Max Mitchell, Braxton. Where is the kid from Washington State? He is the other tackle that I feel has some developmental upside. I think it's Abraham Lucas. Let's see if he's still here on the board. And he is not. Logan Brust is a last 7th round pick kind of guy that we could look for as a developmental tackle as well. So we'll leave that be at the tackle position for now. And when we look at value, man, there's Robinson, there's Beatty, there's Jerome Ford, who I think is going to be a home run. And he's valued right about here in terms of this engine. I would be tempted to do that. But again, I don't think at the fourth that I want to make that investment. So I want somebody who can get on the field that can help the defense come around. And we're going to go Nick Cross, the safety from Maryland, who I think has a lot of skill set that he can bring to this defense. Isn't a replacement by any means for anybody leaving this defense. And we don't even know if everyone's going to leave. But it's not a one-for-one, whether you're replacing a all-pro like Tyrann Mathieu or somebody like Dan Sorensen who has just run out of runway on his career. There's a lot to be said there. Now, this is a long stretch before the Chiefs pick again. We're working our way down to 189. We'll wrap that up with the last couple of picks for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're just going to see who has upside here, who has something that fits what they want. And in this particular environment, we've accomplished a lot to this point. CB Trent McDuffie, the edge Myjai Sanders, George Pickens, the wide receiver, Troy Anderson, the coverage linebacker, and Nick Cross, the safety. Now it's really just who is the best player that brings you some upside. Isaac Taylor-Stewart from USC is definitely one of those options. Tyler Algier, I think this is a low ranking for him. I don't think he will actually be here, but in this scenario, that's what's happened, and he's available. We'll have to take a good look at him there. We're going to scroll down. Marquise Bell is a safety that's very interesting as well. Inconsistent, has some issues, but a big body type and makes plays on the ball. Let's see. We have the edge from Notre Dame, Tagovailoa. I can't remember his hyphenated Amosa. I'll have to check with that. Make sure I get that right and better next time. Velus Jones, the guy that stood out to me down in Mobile. There's a lot of options here. Trey Turner is another sizable wide receiver in terms of his output. 6'2". I don't think he'll actually measure in at the combine that much. But hey, we'll see where that comes from. So who can make an impact? Is it the corner? Is it Algier, the running back? I think you guys want another running back, and I think everybody likes Algier, so I'm going to do it. Here in the fifth, why not? We'll take a chance on it. If that were to happen, I'm perfectly happy with what the Chiefs decide to do in the fifth round. That makes tons of sense. If they feel he has the upside to provide the spark, I think that would probably preclude the return of Darrell Williams. It may not be related, but that would be my instinct. Doesn't necessarily mean that it'll come true. Now, we're back on the clock at 2:30 in the seventh round, and I believe this will be our last selection. Of course, every time I say that, I'll be wrong. Velus Jones, the wide receiver, is still on the board. So is Turner. Noah Ellis, the down lineman. I do expect linemen to be something they address in free agency, to tell you the truth. So let's take a look at some of the skill players, the corners that they could add to it. Zion McCollum, a super long, interesting, intriguing upside corner from Sam Houston State. I have not gotten any film on him yet, but very intrigued by what he brings to the table. He would be an option. They could double dip at edge if there's anybody else that really interests you. Barno from VTech is still there. That would be an option as well. I think the value is going to be at the wide receiver spot, and we're gonna see my guy is still there. He's generally down in most of these. Torrey from Nebraska would be an option as well. I want to say he's listed at 6'2"-ish, 6'3" even. So maybe he'll actually be 6'2". This would be more of an option. I think I would be tempted to look at him. You guys have seen me select Jarrett Stearns over and over and over. He is my guy. He is my sleeper of the draft. All juice. If Terez was here, I would tell him today, put him on the all juice. I might just have to come up with a rogue squad to go with that. And maybe we will, but we'll go with the other bet just to change it up from week to week. And we do go through all the scenarios. We'll take Samori Toure from Nebraska and go through that. Now, please check out the Locked On NFL show, as well as the Locked On NFL draft show that you can find me and Eric Crocker on, because we go through this draft scenario and the prospects every day, all week long. I think you guys will really dig that. We're free on all of the platforms everywhere. I think that's worth checking out. We did do a trade. We had one where we ended up getting George Pickens for a third and 2 sevenths that ended up being Kyron Williams, Charleston Rambo, and Trey Turner. And what we ended up doing was pretty good across the board for the defense. Trent McDuffie, the corner, Myjai Sanders, the edge. George Pickett's the wide receiver. Troy Anderson, a coverage linebacker. Nick Cross, a utility safety. Tyler Algier to push the ball downfield, shall we say, and a developmental wide receiver that can probably go along behind Pickens and add some depth and some oratory. I think that's a pretty good haul. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments here on YouTube as well as in the iTunes reviews. Would like to see what you guys think of the way that I went through this one. Now, Chris will be back to balance me out next week as we do Mock Draft Monday every week. But that's what it comes down to for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for spending your time. Like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube. Enjoy your week. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Matt will be here on Wednesday, as always, as we run down the changes in the Kansas City organization. But here's one look at the future. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening or watching, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.